Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Okay, levels look pretty good. Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining me. Hey Gathering. Thanks for dropping by. Land 1.5 is live on the test server and everyone is welcome. I woke up a lot of stuff going on here because I'm preparing to drive out to my brother's for Thanksgiving week tomorrow. So I'll be driving all day long. So we're prepping for that. But when I woke up this morning, saw a notice on Discord, checked it out. They dropped it late last night here in Eastern time, right? Hey, Wibble, thanks for dropping by. Land ho indeed. And a big we because this is something we've been waiting for years. Literally, most of us that are around. Of course, there are some new people, so welcome if you're rather new to the infrastructure. And if you're you've probably caught up. But I've bought a land parcel of land when I initially started playing Splinterlands, and that was more than, it's like at this point 2.5 years ago. So we've been waiting on it for quite some time. So as you can see, it's a big event. It is live on at least on the QA servers. I just did a short video and posted it right before going live here, just so everybody who didn't see the notice on Discord was aware. Everybody can join in this time around. And the name of the game is Hunting for Bugs. And report those bugs with the link in the Discord announcement section because obviously, there's going to be some people that try to take advantage of them, but I think overall, I think everybody wants to try and make this release as bug-free as possible, so it's kind of an even playing field for everybody. I can only speak for myself. I don't like when bugs are found and abused. Of course, there's going to be people that do that all the time anyway, so try to make this bug free, and they did say there were awards if you found a bug. Probably something small, but at least it's saying thank you for reporting the bug and get it into their work queue, right? So Gathering, I realized I need 2 more power cores, or 20k more DEC I need. I thought power cores were only 5k each. Ike, thanks for dropping by. Good afternoon. Ghostly BG's in the house. Hey, welcome by. And Paul Taylor, thanks for dropping by. Obviously, the big news, like I just was talking about, Land 1.5 on the QA server for everyone. Unfortunately, I am extremely busy today. I'm getting ready to travel out for the Thanksgiving weekend. So just a note, next weekend, next Saturday, there will be no live show due to the fact that I will be driving once again all day to get back home on that Saturday. And most likely no videos this week, but I will be back in time to go live with land. Cross our fingers that nothing major is experienced again, but I'm really psyched that they opened up the QA server for everyone. Hopefully everybody will be able to get in, and from what I heard from Gathering, he was able to get in and do a video. Check it out on his channel as far as what it looks like with him equipping some of his land, and hopefully it sounded like it went kind of smoothly. Make sure you are going to build the correct building before you spend time crystals. Glad it's on the test server. So, yeah, Gathering had pinged me earlier about a mistake he had made. Yeah. Obviously, one of the other benefits about going in and doing your outfitting of your land first on the test server is if you make any mistakes, you can make a note and not make that mistake when you go ahead and do it. So Gathering said he made a video on this, so go ahead and check that out on his channel whenever he drops it. He may have already put it up. And he had made one specific mistake due to time crystals that he points out to hopefully help everybody. It is 5k for power cores. Yeah, I had thought, unless they had changed it, obviously everything is being changed at a rapid pace, but I thought it was 5k for the power cores. So, yeah, I don't think that the 5k for the power cores is overall, it's not a breaker. It's not a make or break for me as far as purchasing land. I would like to, as I've talked about, I'm always looking for deals. I'm big on the land. But obviously I haven't found deals lately in the last few weeks. But one of the things is the building in the box with the power core and the building in the box. At this point, I don't think it's make or break as far as having to spend 5K for a power core on a land if you can score a really good deal on that parcel of land, right? I think that is very kind of minuscule compared to the rest you're going to spend to build out that land as far as the cards and the DEC for staking, etc. It is something worth noting, obviously, but if you can score a good deal on a piece of land, I don't think it's a make or break. Looks like 14 to 21 days if you don't use time crystals and to get plots cleared for commons and rares. Yeah, it's been a while since I did a video on that, and I think both of us and a lot of us did videos here about 2 months ago or so about what we're going to do on land and kind of doing the numbers and everything. And obviously, it really depends upon the card levels and types that you have staked as far as how long it's going to take to clear those land plots. Obviously, if they're magic, they're going to take a lot longer and occupied, right, than normal plots. I just did the numbers at that point as far as just getting time crystals to get them all up and running fast, on day one. Now, with that said, if I do score some deals on some plots, I'm going to reach out to Gank. I'm going to see if he has a rare or another plot, a couple plots available in Gankland. I'm kind of interested in that, though. But with that said, when I go into it, I'm going to top down. I'm going to stake out my higher level plots, epic, magic first, before I hit my commons and see where I end up. I'm sure my math is going to be a little bit off, but I don't expect to be too far off. I expect to get all 10 of my plots, if I don't buy any more at this point, up and running. But I would expect most people to kind of follow that, unless they have some kind of other weird strategy going on as far as where they would go bottom up, right? I've also been exploring the idea that we've talked about on and off as far as buying just good deals around the map and not worrying about where they are. Just from the fact of, I've seen, it's very tempting. We've been looking at the land market, or I do, on a daily basis all the way through the day. And you get you see land plots, they've been hovering around $30 all the way down to $27 for a common one. And I've got to think, with all this time and effort put into this, that the land plots are worth more than $30. That's just me. But this is not investment advice, and I've been thinking about just buying common plots. But with that said, I wouldn't have enough DEC and cards to stake out those common plots day one. I would, focus on my better plots first. Okay, so, and I think Ghostly pointed this out last week, or maybe it was somebody else, that he thought that my assertion that being in an area with specifically active, with a lot of active players, maybe I was emphasizing it too much, and maybe that picking up plots all around the map, there's going to be value in them. So just something I've been thinking about. Every time I look at those plots for sale for like under $30, I keep thinking about going ahead and picking some up, but at this point I haven't. Okay, let's see here. Let's catch up with chat. So, Ghostly says, win 2.0. Because it was fun while I was setting up my 8 plots, but 20 to 30 minutes later, it all came down to pressing harvest. Yeah, I think a lot of that's going to come down to, and it looks like, and I haven't worked with the interface yet, but it looks like they've done a good job working with the UI and the whole GUI to make it a little bit easier for people with multiple plots. Now, with that said, it's probably not going to be perfect. It might be a little bit repetitive, but like I said, you don't have to do that every day. You can do it once a week, or you can, if it kind of gets to a repetitive nature, you can schedule it out so you're only doing it once or twice a week, right? And it just depends upon how you're doing it. And obviously, when 2.0 hits, everything's going to change, right? But I kind of foresee myself only harvesting maybe once or twice a week, just to kind of, I think at the first, whenever we get up and running, there's going to be a certain amount of time where everybody's changing things around to kind of find the equilibrium where they like to be as far as whatever their strategy is. My strategy is kind of I want to be a little bit more on the grain. I want to harvest a little bit more grain than what I need to keep everything afloat. And in that way, keep a surplus of grain going, right? So I don't have to buy any off the market. That's that's what I'm looking at. Is my SPS gathering or mining and my I don't intend. I think the SPS mining is going to be the lowest on my scale. Not that I don't see value in SPS. In fact, if you watch my video, I got a great chest of SPS this past week, and I've been gradually buying a little bit of SPS at a time, doing the kind of dollar cost averaging mindset. At this point, compared to when SPS staking went live for rewards, I'm over 3 times what I had there, and I've not made a bulk buy. I've bought a little bit at a time, right? But I think in my mindset, I have 2 magic lands and I have a bunch of regular lands, and I want to harvest a little bit more grain than what I need, and then magic would be second in importance, and then SPS would come in third. Obviously, I want to have like a nice trickle going. But I think my main point here is that everybody's going to have a certain period where they change things around a few times, and then they get into where they like to be, and then ride it on out and only harvest maybe once or twice a week, so. Workers do consume grain when clearing, right? Correct. Don't see much they are eating, trying to find it. Yes, that's the main cost that you compare. So when you're clearing a land, you're paying for the food for the workers, and you're paying time, because a lot of times, especially with these magic lands, you're waiting up to 15, 20 days depending upon what you have staked on the land, right? Now, if you stake them out with high-end cards, yeah, it's going to be a lot faster. But these lands are take a long time, and you have to figure the cost. Now, it's been a couple months since I did the video, but at that point in time, the cost of the grain, when you're buying it directly off the market, if you can't produce it, right, is equal to what the time crystals was equal. So in my mindset, if you want to get up and running day one, time crystals the best. Now, obviously, there's going to be a lot of people that can't afford that, or don't. I'll put it a different way. Don't want to budget for that, right? Obviously, a lot of us can afford to, but we have a certain budget we're going to stick to. I'm going to spend this much money. I see value. So maybe you get a certain portion of your lands up and running. Like, say, for instance, I got my food up and running, and I got my magic up and running, and then with time crystals, and then for my common plots, maybe build them out and wait for them to complete. I don't know. But at this point, unless I get some extra land plots between now and land going live, I'm going to use time crystals for it all. Let's see here. Let me catch up. Welcome to 1.5, Ghostly. This is what it's all about. Set up and then wait. Imagine setting up a tract or region. He says, thankfully, I don't have that problem. But I do think that they made the UI specifically with those people in mind that have a lot of plots, to make it a little bit easier to go through versus going in and selecting one land at a time and doing it. So I really want some land plots for $30-ish, but no one is selling in 43 or 51. You know what? Specifically, I was going over to look where you were. Not that I'm stalking you or anything, but I was thinking about buying a plot or two of land in your regions. And I noticed that if you're not looking around, and obviously a lot of us are specifically looking at specific regions which we're in, there is a wide disparity in prices. There are a lot of land. Let's go off of let's go over here, Peak Monsters. Let's look at land. There are a lot of places, and Raison de Tier has popped up lately with a bunch of stuff for sale. This is a one that I haven't seen. Evidently, he's had this up for sale for 9 days. Lunadin. Jumanji has been very common. Shuvo has been very common. Torrensgard has been very common. Whenever I'm looking at, and obviously, you know what? I've seen a lot of people trying to dump tundras and canyons, which are the 5%ers instead of 10%ers. I can see the value in why the team made those. It's a little bit easier to fit cards staking in there, but you know, people are going to prefer the 10%. And until 2.0 comes out and we figure out exactly what a tundra canyon will harvest, what you can harvest on them, I think people will, those tend to be the ones that are being dumped the cheapest. But yeah, I agree there's a wide disparity of pricing, and you know, it's all a bet. It's all a gamble, right? It's all a gamble when said and done. And I'm still thinking about going ahead and picking up. And I'm kind of looking for, you know, as we all are. My process has been, I look at the cheap plot, I look at where it's at, and I look at who owns the castles and the keeps in that area. And I'm trying to look for people I know, people that are active in the community and stuff. Not necessarily that that's a, I don't know, maybe that might not be a great strategy, but that's what I've been doing. There is a wide disparity, however. If you can find a group of 4 or 5 in the same region track, then it may be worth it. I agree. I've been looking at that as well, as far as picking up a group. I definitely don't want to pick up one. I want to pick, with my strategy, I want to at least pick up 2 at a time, right? So let's see here. Virus, welcome to the show. Thanks for dropping by. I was thinking about buying a group of cheap plots in another region as well. Well, you know, it's all a gamble. And we've talked about this time and again as far as there's, you know, like the whole storage idea, right? Land 2.0 and after, there's going to be a need for storage. So that's one valid reason if you want to buy, you know, my idea was, well, just pick up a cheapest land plot here and there, right? Whenever they pop up, and just keep them for doing storage on. Or by that time, there may be some other better thing to do with them, you know? So obviously we know that if you pick up one plot in a region, and that's all you have there, you're probably right out of the gate probably going to have to just farm grain on that. Otherwise, you're going to have to pay for grain, you know, to keep that plot going. But it's a valid idea. We've talked about it. It's just, it's kind of, you know, where do you want to put your money, right? So I think you want to build a huge surplus of grain now as much as possible. Get that huge stockpile to transfer when it goes live. Yes, I agree. However, you have to keep this in mind, that between, and I know there's likely to be a wide window between 1.5 and 2, maybe a year or whatever. I have no idea. We know how long it's taken to get 1.5 out. However, I don't think between 1.5 and 2 that's a valid comparison, because 1.5 is this huge base of the game, right? And this huge code base of the game. And there's a lot of stuff that they have been working on to create the foundation. I don't think 2.0 is going to take that long as long as 1.5 took. My guess would be one year. But my main point there is, once 2.0 hits and we get all these new buildings and all these new things to farm and mine, and here's the key thing, the storage limit kicks in, and that might be 2.0, that might be after. It's something they've been talking about. I don't think they've specified. But if you've got this huge surplus of grain going on, you need to know what you're going to do with that grain once the storage limits go into place, okay? So maybe you turn one of your land into a storage. You know, maybe you pay somebody else, you know, whatever it looks like, to rent their storage, like I was just talking about. You know, I don't know, but that's one thing you have to keep in mind. But I do agree, as far as having a surplus of grain to be able to operate all your plots in that particular region, just from an operation standpoint, I don't want to have to buy grain off of the market, because as we've seen, and it's been a while since I did another video, but it's going to be expensive to buy grain off the market at 1 DEC per grain. I just don't want to be in that position. Nice cheap group in 47. Wish it were in 46 or 43. Virus, do you see where it shows workers gain consumption for clearing? Okay, they're talking about working on the QA server. It's the same for clearing as producing grain SPS. No, I think it is. I think it is. Peak Monsters has some good tools to equip land faster than in game. It's something to look at. Hey, Paul, thanks for dropping that in. I will have to check that out. I'm on Peak Monsters. I just haven't checked that new tool out. But I will be doing a video when I get back from holiday and set up my land. At this point, I have 10 plots. I may, jump in there. I think I'm going to ping Gank and see if he has a couple plots available in Gankland, and see what that looks like. No promises, because I haven't talked to him yet on it. I've never really talked to him about anything. But, the whole idea of everybody being in all the people that, the way he's setting up Gankland is really interesting to me. So, in the UI on Mavs, it should be the same as working in normal plots. So 1 cent times base PP without terrain bonus. I ended up buying time crystals for all of mine, so I haven't tried manually clearing any Mavs yet. That was Virus. Curious what the storage limits will be. Yeah, I don't think they've made those up. I do think that they're going to have to set them, they're going to have to set them so that it's worth people actually using land as storage, because they've talked about this a number of times. If they set it high, then there might not be such a reason for people to dedicate land to storage. So, but we've seen this. What do I want to call it? I don't want to call it a feature. It's in other games. There's a lot of other games where there are limits that you have to either pay to increase or level up to increase your storage limits, etc. It's not a new idea. So I do like that fact, and it's also something, when what were they calling it, the feature where land surfing, when that comes into play, that also might be a valid use of land that you're going to surf on for storage, things of this nature. So it should actually be the grain cost of the PP needed to clear the plot. Hopefully it doesn't keep charging your grain for workers once the clearing is done if you haven't paid the grain yet. As far as I know, the grain cost comes at harvest time. You have to look at this math when you're doing the harvest, because when you're harvesting whatever you have to harvest, you have to pay the grain for. We're talking about, I'll have to look into it, because you guys are specifically talking about clearing, so I don't have an answer on that right now. In 1.5, grain will be expensive, but I would think grain drops to 0.3 to 0.2 per once the grain markets are out eventually. Yeah, I agree. And they said that's their primary consideration after 1.5 is released, is the grain market. Yeah, when 1.5 hits, obviously there are going to be people that go all in on grain. Some people will go all in on SPS, etc. It's all over the board. But there will be people that try and make their primary consideration is trying to make some money off of grain. So if you have everything harvesting grain or everything growing grain, and you can do deals with other people, 1.5, between 1.5 and 1.6, it will have to be direct deals. And yes, I agree. As time goes on, the price of grain will go down. No matter if you buy it on the market, if you buy it directly from a person, it will come down. So at a certain point, there's going to be a median line where you say, well, I'll save this much money versus time crystals. I'll just have to wait 5 or 10 or 15 days. Is it worth it? And it just depends upon where you are. So if you've got most of your land set up, you're going along fine, and then you buy another common plot, yeah, it probably is worth it just to, once the price of grain goes down, it's probably worth it just to, you know, stake it out and let them clear it and go on with it. But at first, I think that the time crystals will be worth their money to get up and running. Looks like it may be up to 30K grain to clear my plot if it takes 20 days. When I last did the math, the amount of grain to clear was basically the same as the amount of time crystals. I have to look at my math again, but the cost was the same basically. You just did not have to wait. And I'm sure that could change depending upon what you have staked and everything. But I believe I did the math at 10,000 pp, and that was with, I don't know if I factored in my bonuses or not. But I'll have to, I don't even want to dive back into that. We're at a time period right now where I'm just going to stop making guesses. When it goes live, I'm going to do a video. I'm going to jump in. I'm going to get everything live, and we'll see how it goes. That's why the cost of time crystals makes more sense if you don't have the grain already. Yeah. Is the Land 2.0 white paper still scheduled to release this month? Last I heard, Matt said that he wanted to get the 2.0 white paper live by the end of the month. And obviously the point is that this is not set in stone. It is a work in progress, and he wanted to make it that way so people could comment on it and kind of make it a working document, not just like, hey, here's the Land 2.0 white paper. This is set in stone. He wanted it to be live, wanted it to be a working document for a while, and before the changes are put into stone. And obviously we know these things are never really in stone, because look at the Land 1.5 white paper, and before that things change all the time. You just have to accept that. But he did say he wants to release it by the end of the month. That is the last I heard on that. Virus says, I wasn't going to buy time crystals till I thought about the grain cost to clear. Yeah, I did this video a couple months ago, and I had done so many videos in a row on it that I just felt that I had exhausted the topic and I wanted to talk about other things. So yeah, at that point in time, the time crystals cost was the same as the grain. You just didn't have to wait the time, really. But the math changes, like Virus said, as time goes along and grain gets cheaper. You just have to figure, is it worth it? You know, I'm up and running. I got a couple new plots over here. And that kind of goes into my strategy as time goes along with the land game, right? Personally, my strategy is to funnel profits from my land, any profits I can make off my land, into buying another plot, you know, and expanding my quote unquote empire. I don't have a huge empire. It's 10 plots. But my plan is to funnel any profits I make, however I end up making them, into buying another plot at a time, and so on and so forth, and hopefully down the road end up with several more plots, right? So Eraserheads, welcome to the party, says they're loving the test server. Regarding workers, I tried Zerial on my plot, and it's supposed to give minus 50% for 50% for death and 10% for life. I'm only getting the 10% boost. Having said Rebellion dual cards will be a must-have. I think you're only going to get the 10% boost. I would have to look specifically into that, but I would not think, if your point was you should get a 10% for each, I don't think you're going to get that. I think you're just going to get 10%. But I can't answer specifically on that. But I agree, the dual cards and the dual lands and dual cards in general that will end up coming out with Rebellion, whatever they may be. We know that the summoners are the main topic there. I've mentioned this in a few videos where I love the idea, and I think they're going to revolutionize the game. Now, several people have done videos on this. I don't think they're going to be the be-all, end-all. I think that just as we go along and the game evolves, it gets more difficult and more complicated, but you have more options. And I've already said that I love it from the fact that back when I was playing Magic the Gathering, I love dual lands. I love the options that it gives you, okay? But obviously in this situation, they're going to have to, like better summoners, like epic and legendary summoners, they're probably going to cost more to get out, and you might have some side effects or something. We'll see how it goes. But for me, especially, my strategy is going to be kind of the same as it was when I was playing Magic the Gathering. My topic, or my point of view on buying dual lands, was buy the dual lands that benefit your play the most. And for me, since I don't, well, I actively play in my guild brawls and everything, but all my other play is handled by Archmage. I would have to examine what color combinations Archmage use, because I also agree with most people's thinking on this matter that these are not going to be cheap cards. When Rebellion comes out, the summoners are going to be the top cards that are wanted. Most likely, there might be some legendaries that come out that really catch people's eyes, but I think that the summoners are going to be the top as far as wanted cards. They're going to be the most expensive cards, especially at the very beginning. Excuse me. Let me catch a drink of water here. Hey, Mystic Force, welcome to the party. Thanks for dropping by. Okay. So yeah, as we all know, if you've been playing for a while, when an initial release of cards comes out, there's this usually 1 to 2 month period there where the cards ride a high average, and then they start going down as more hit the market, right? It's kind of logic, right? In this case, due to the expense and due to the change in how the cards were sold and how staking will be for the airdrops and things like that, I think that the prices are going to stay up relatively similar to what we've saw with Rift Watchers. Now, obviously, with anything, it could be wrong. I'm not saying go out and spend your whole paycheck on these cards, but I do think that the dual summoners are almost going to, especially if you play in Modern, they're going to be needed, especially the ones that have the combinations, the most popular combinations, okay? And we can all kind of take a look at our play style and guess at what the most popular combinations are going to be, and they're going to draw a premium, right? I wouldn't even stop to say that they're going to revolutionize the way Wild goes too, because they're going to have a heavy impact on Wild as well, I believe. So, but I agree with you. I'm very interested in it. It's been a long time. This is somebody brought this up. I forget who. One of the other big guys, big video guy, YouTube video guys, had brought it up because I watch videos whenever I'm working out in the morning. So I think it was Aftersound brought up the fact that. And it completely blanked my mind. I'll think of it here in a minute. Okay, so let's get back to chat. Didn't even think about how dual Splinter PP would be calculated. Hello, everyone. It's a good boost for dual cards. Rebellion will be a game changer both in card game and land. I agree. I don't think there'll be a lot of Rebellion staked on land. From my point of view, well, I can just speak for myself. Logically, from a business perspective, it makes sense to buy the cheaper cards and use them on land. And Rebellion, just like I said, are going to be in the more expensive cards. Kind of right now, it's kind of like I don't think you're going to see a lot of Rift Watchers on lands. That's just my take on it. 100% true for Magic the Gathering and soon in Splinterlands. I too have those dual lands and play them often. I wish I still had mine. I sold my set. I'm another one of those guys that sold my set back when I should have kept it. But I had a 4 set of each dual land plus more. Some of them I had 6 of. Yeah. So as well as Black Lotus, Moxes. I had unlimited Black Lotus and Moxes, and it makes me cry every time I see what the prices are now. But hindsight is 20/20, and we all make mistakes. Just try to learn from them. One of the things I will say that I like about Splinterlands versus Magic the Gathering, specifically is the fact that it's a lot easier to sell your cards. Okay, one of the hard things about having a physical card collection, I love physical cards, I still buy them today, is finding people to trade or sell with. Now, back in the day, back in the late 90s, mid to late 90s, when I was playing Magic, it was easy. There was all kinds of card games going on, and card shops had numerous tables, and they do still, but not to this what it was back then, right? And you could go and you could hang out and not be like the weirdo old guy. You could trade cards, you could sell them. Obviously, they frowned upon selling for money on premises whenever the business was trying to make money, but you could buy, sell, trade. It was relatively easy at that point. But now it's much harder to find people to buy and sell. Going through the whole eBay thing is just, I'm getting off on a tangent, but basically, my point is it's a lot easier in Splinterlands, and that's one of the things that attracted me to it. You can jump in, you can buy, sell, trade. You don't have to go down to the local game store and find somebody to buy, sell, and trade with. So, if you don't have your DEC staked after you set your workers and you buy your DEC, you have to re-enter your workers. Minor bug. Hey, Weird Mix Shorts in the house. Welcome. Thanks for dropping by. Appreciate your time. Let me think about that. If you don't have your DEC staked after you set your workers and you buy your DEC, you have to re-enter your workers. Okay, so basically the takeaway there is have your DEC up front and make sure you have your DEC before entering your workers. Otherwise, you're going to have to redo your thing. So. Razorhead says, and not worrying about getting it bruised from playing. Thus, I have to use those hard cases, dual protection. You have treasured was Wrath of God and Armageddon and Beta. Yeah, I agree. Digital assets, that's another plus. They're not going to get torn up, right? They're not going to get worn. You don't have to worry about using proxies. Hey, can I use proxies today, et cetera, So. But there's still something about having physical cards. I have, you can't see much of my bookshelf in the back, but there's lots of cards up there and card boxes and stuff like that. So okay, so what else everybody want to talk about? We've talked about land. Now another big thing, just to shift over to Golem Overlord for a little bit. Let's go over here. He has been making a lot of changes in Golem Overlord lately. Wow, new version. He's done 3 new versions today. So our guild is getting pretty close, I'm waiting for this, to the next bunker level, which will get us an extra percentage. Yes, Golem Overlord. We are currently bunker level 5, but we are working on 6, and at level 6 we get that extra percent of claim, which is what everybody wants, because this is, as you can see, our guild has grown pretty nicely, and yeah, I just reloaded new version. So we're up to 20 seats. If more people in the guild would go at it, most people have benches, but basically the takeaway here is if you're playing Golem Overlord and you're in a guild, please buy a bench, because then that allows your guild to get another player, and help out, right? Nice. Yeah, I think the way the math goes on this is the fact that, okay, so in Golem Overlord, if you play, your guild can put a certain tax, as it were, on what you make during your play, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%. I don't know what this, I think 5% is the maximum, right? Currently in our guild, it's 3%. We took a voice vote. Everybody agreed that was fine. For me, as it's been in action, it looks like the tax, if you go with like 3 or 4% tax, whatever, that ends up being enough part to gradually grow the guild over time in not too long of a time period as far as increasing your bunker levels. Where it comes in that it doesn't draw enough is the shard. Thank you very much. And that's where people have to kind of input a few here and there to be able to get it up to level, because the tax on shards does not draw in that much. But, you know, that's where kind of the gameplay perspective, well, it's not really gameplay perspective. It's a perspective on keeping the value of shard up, as well as part to a certain amount. But he wants you really to donate the shard, and to a certain point you're going to have to go in, and a lot of people are going to have to buy some. They're not incredibly expensive. It's not that expensive, so I've been dumping in here and there. But I think that we are at 20 seats, so we will pick up an extra seat, and I think I'm going to buy some more, another bench or two. But our guild is rolling around just fine. What is the max you can set for guild donations? That is a good question. I don't know. I didn't want to increase it too much without, everything I do is kind of, I want everybody to be agreeing. I don't want somebody to come in and quit the guild just because, oh man, he's taking too much. He didn't ask everybody about it. The whole deal here is you put a little bit of a tax on everybody, but then as the guild grows, it's taking a while to load. You get more and more bonus to your claim. So yes, there's a 3% tax, but you're getting a 2% bonus from the guild already, so it's almost like just taking 1%. Yeah. Let's see here. I would have to go into guild settings. Let's give you all a look at what the guild settings look like if you're not a guild leader. So yes, here you go. You can set it up to 5%. You can also set a weekly claim contribution ceiling as well if you wanted to. But so the max is 5%. We'll keep it at 3%. It seems to be rolling along. I imagine that as we go up, so there's an extrapolation here though, because as people level up, what they claim goes up, and as the amount of guild bonus goes up, which goes up with the level of the guild, right? That brings in more, which brings in more to the guild. So with all that said, everything I intend to do with this guild, it goes up for a voice vote, and we'll see what everybody thinks about it. But with that said, let's go ahead. I did put out 2 videos this last week. One big thing within Golem Overlord is the new quests. So he put in, if you're not familiar, I also, if you don't play Golem Overlord and you do want to get in, I will leave a link, my referral link in the show comments, so you can use that if you want to. But up to this time period, up till mid last week, we had not really had any introductory quests that got you into the game. You just had to kind of dive in, watch some videos, read about it, and kind of do your thing, right? Well, he has put in some quests that get people up and running as far as introduction, right? He has an introduction set of quests, Mysteries of the Golemancr, that's 9, teaches you the basics. The Wasteland Whispers, which get a little bit more in depth, especially with the newer items in the game. And then the Great Pyrite Forge, which teaches you about basically modifying your different gear in the game and increasing. And I got to be honest, the Great Pyrite Forge stuff is a lot of gambling. It is. But a lot of this type of games, a lot of these games, and I would like to kind of compare it to a gacha game in that they want you to spend money, obviously. But in this case, it's kind of like the idea in Splinterlands about the whole effect of the flywheel effect we're talking about. Well, in this game, the whole I don't know what to call it, but there's an effect where he wants you to burn shards to do this, and then you have to buy certain items to try and increase the value or increase your stats on other items and stuff like that. There's this whole system where it's basically, he wants you to buy items, and by buying items on the marketplace, it increases the value of shard in part as well. So I like the idea. I'm not a big gambler. In fact, I'm probably the guy on towards one side of the spectrum as far as not gambling. Whenever I spend money, I want to see a very good value for the money I spend. So that's why in game, certain things that I gravitate towards are more safe on the gambling perspective. Guten Tag, International Travel Channel in the house. Welcome. Thanks for dropping by. Virus says, I lost my module trying to reroll stats, my first one. Yeah, a lot of these are very it's a lot of gambling, right? And I don't really like that. I went through if you go through the quest series, it has you go ahead and modify a module. And I went and modified my module, and it kind of turned out, I don't know, a little bit worse than what it was. Because it's just my luck. I find that I don't have good luck when it comes to RNG. Now people would argue, hey, you got that great chest at end of season this week. Yeah, I agree. But that's the best chest I've ever had in 2.5 years. I've had legendaries, a few here and there, but nothing of that value. So, but with that said, there are a lot of things that I'm keeping in my inventory and I'm not going to use right now, just because a lot of them are gambling. There's some of them that I just will not use. Some of them will have a high percentage chance, like you said, of just blowing your module up. So Gathering says, I got +3 luck on Expedition and an extra background slot. Yeah. Stuff like that. There are some things, this module I'm using has +4 faith, +6% shard steel, and +4 power. Now, what I did do that was effectively a bonus here is that I increased my 3 slots to effectively, I could have all 3 yellow stats. I just have to go in and modify and try to do it again. I did burn through 2 other items trying to increase my other 2 stats to yellow, but once again, not effective at doing that. So I would like to get a better background. This is a purple. So that is one good way that you can increase your shard intake, but most of this stuff on the marketplace, if anybody else has something to want to talk about on Splinterlands or any other game, really, just throw it in. I'm just talking about Golem Overlord because that's been one of my main topics in the last couple weeks because he's been throwing a lot of new stuff in. I like the way the game's going. I like it from the overall aspect of there's one guy doing this. And he's doing a lot. And I like the aspect that, especially how AI plays into this. I would like to talk to him. I would like to do a video with Yixon and talk more about this. He also has made Splex, right? So we've been off and on using that for different things over time as well. So I think he's a very smart guy, and especially with the advent of AI being used for art, it's really interesting to me because you can take a relatively small team, and I hate this from the aspect of there's less work for real artists, but I think in the most you can tell when artwork is AI. But with that said, it's gotten better and better and better, and that's just one of the aspects that make it a possibility for a very small team to do a larger project like this, right? So I'm getting into Golem Overlord more and more. We need to get Yixon on the land development team. He would have land 3.0 by Christmas all by himself. Yeah, Yixon is kind of amazing, I think. He's a workhorse. When he's working, you can tell he's working because he's dropping multiple new things on a daily basis. Now, I will step back and say that it's a much different project than what Splinterlands is. And Splinterlands overall is much more complicated, I think, on the back end than what this game is. However, I do agree he's a workhorse, and he seems to be a very smart guy. Very good at development, that's for sure. Anyway, he's been doing a lot, and it's not uncommon for him to drop multiple new things on a daily basis. So as a YouTube guy, it's hard for me to keep up with all this, especially when I'm trying to keep up with Splinterlands as well. I'm playing Terracore, I'm playing a few other things as well, so I'm also trying to keep up with Splinterforge. A lot to be said. But back on land, I have been trying to search for deals, and I think I'm going to ping Gank, trying to get a plot or two on Gankland, see what's up with that, see if he would like me to live over there. I think I'm in a good situation, and I will be doing videos when this goes live as far as setting up land. I'm glad to hear that everybody has positive things to say about the testing going on. The last thing we want to really hear is, oh, something major that delays it again. But like we've said, I'd rather have a problem come out in the QA session than have it come out day one when it's live. Because I think we've all seen games like that, if you've been playing long enough, where something went live, a major bug happened, and it didn't get caught in QA session, and then somebody or more than one somebody's took advantage of it and got way out ahead of everybody else, and then as a game player you're like, well, why should I even try, you know? Wonder if Gank has messed around on the QA server. I don't know. Have to go over and ask him. I don't know. I think up to this point in time, I don't know if he has. He seems like he I don't know. I can't say anything for him. But hopefully he does get in and test it out. It seems to me that Walking Keys is usually the guy that jumps in and does stuff like this versus Gank. But we'll see. I'm going to send out, after this video is done, I'm going to send out a ping to him, see what he's got available, see if we can discuss it. Like I said, I'm not adverse to going ahead and jumping in and buying some cheap plots wherever they may be too. But it's all this process that's consistently running around in my brain. Believe it or not, I wake up thinking about this kind of thing, and then I go to bed thinking about this kind of thing. Because, you know, at the end of the day, you know, let's go to Peak Monsters. Let's refresh. At the end of the day, I gotta think, with all that's went into land, that land is worth more than $30 a plot. Even if it sits there and you just use it to farm grain for a while, you know, I got to think that in the end it's going to end up being worth more than $30. But, you know, the other side of that I've been thinking about is also the fact that, you know, a number of us has done videos. I know Gathering's done a few videos on this fact that when Land 2.0 goes live, you also have to worry about, you're going to have to worry about grain and food as well. Because not all plots will be able to farm grain or food, right? But by that point in time, I'm sure there's going to be a big, rich market as far as plenty of grain available. And it might be a situation, it's probably going to be a situation where you change your whole aspect of how you're playing your plots, you know? So we've talked about that as well, too. I realize I need to get my cards all combined and moved with plenty of time before land, so that I'm not in a crunch when live comes around. Yeah, I agree. I had, over the last few months, I've been buying up cards on Peak Monsters and using the, let's look at this way, using, let's just use Gargoyle Line, using the bulk buy option, and then, you know, buying a max level, right? But what that does is that dumps multiples into your account. And then I hadn't really thought about it, but then I started going through my cards. I'm like, well, I need to do a bunch of combines, because I just, like, you know, open up, like, I got 700 Gargoyle Lions or whatever, you know. Not to say I'm using neutral. I have chosen not to use neutral because neutral, there are pluses and minuses that, right? You can use it on any land plot, but you're not going to get the full bonus, right? So I've been concentrating on specifically buying cards to get that extra 10%. I do have a couple 5% lands just because I picked them up. But that's that. I agree. When Land 2.0 comes out, my thought is land will be $75 plus, but just a guess. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say, right? It's all a gamble. But I've been thinking about that a lot. I've been thinking about what will happen to the price of land when Land 1.5 goes live. And then furthermore, how will the sale of land change when Land 2.0 comes out? Because when Land 2.0 comes out, everything's going to be radically different. You're going to have various buildings on land and everything like that. So, you know, I have a forest and I build a sawmill on this forest and I have it staked out. If I want to sell it to you, when I sell it, does it include that building? Does the building get stripped off, et cetera, et cetera? I'm sure these are all variables right now that they haven't thought about. But I've been thinking about these things and what it'll be, right? But I do agree. I think the price is going to go up, but who knows? I mean, 3 months ago, we were paying $80 for a common, right? And now they're 30. Of course, it depends upon you know, where your plot is, right? We've already talked about that, but they were much more expensive 3 months ago, and now they went down in this lull. People kind of I don't know, tired of waiting, whatever, changed their attitude on how they're investing their money. Maybe they're selling off plots. They don't like canyons. They don't like the 5% lands, so that they're going to sell off these plots and buy the 10% lands. Who knows? I'm hoping, obviously, we're all hoping our land goes up in value because at this point in time, I'm taking a loss. I think a lot of us are, but hopefully it goes up over time. You know, the whole idea that especially Dwayne talks about a lot of times is the land, not just land, but cards and the whole infrastructure or the whole ecosystem, rather, that's a better word for it, going up over time, right? So that's the whole, you know, hope here, right? I don't think you can go wrong just picking up and setting on plots, even if you don't use them. I'm starting to go in that direction. I don't know if we know yet if farms can't be built on any plot. My thought is that just some land types may just give a bonus. Yeah, who knows? Everything could change. I'm just going off the whole idea of they had put it out that certain land plots would be able to farm grain. Obviously, everything's up in the air, right? You know, it was the hills, plains, and a couple other lakes. I don't know how you can farm grain on lake, although you do farm rice underwater, so who knows? Either way, I expect that when 2.0 goes live, we're radically going to have to change. Well, I'm hoping that as 2.0 gets closer, we'll go through this process where more information is evolved and let out so that everybody can go through a process of figuring out how they're going to stake their land. That's what I expect, or change the way they use their land. I expect that because they've let out, we've gotten gradual information as time goes along. Let's face it, they're a team, they're building something new, they're coming up with new ideas and figuring out how to put those ideas in place. And once those ideas come out and they get cemented, this is definitely happening, then they release the information. Sometimes they release it a little bit too soon and things change. But hopefully we'll have this period of time where we can gradually, okay, this is what I've been doing with my land for 6 or 8 months. 2.0 is getting ready to come out in a couple months. I need to use this information to re-evolve my plan, come up with a new plan, how my land's going to work and what I'm going to do with it. Because there's going to be a bunch of different variables coming into play, right? We're going to have, at a certain point, magic items, spells, and things of this nature. All kinds of new variables coming into play. Some of them not even made up. They just talked about, right? So I'm sure they've come up with these ideas, and some of the ideas they know how they're going to do. They just need time to do it. Some of these ideas they probably don't even know how they're going to put into place. But that's just how things goes, right? Okay, we're getting to the bottom of the hour. Let's go ahead and finish it off. catch up with chat here. I don't know if we know. Okay, so I talked about that. Instead of using 5 separate 1BCX gold foil epics on a plot, I should just combine them and have 4 spots open to drop new workers in. I would think up front, if you can do that, that would be the best play. Of course, gold foil epics are going to be kind of expensive, and the higher, remember, the higher your production points, the more grain you're going to have to buy to feed those guys. So that's careful. It's a fine line. Yes, you have to look at your land and you can say, well, I want to obviously max it out the best I can. Yes, but you're also going to have to account for how much food production or food grain you're going to buy off the market. So, but from a gold foil perspective, I would think that taking up one slot would be, and leaving the other slots open to further advancement would be better. But keep in mind, you know, take it for what it's worth. I think that after January, price of cards is going to go up radically because he's going to have that burn event, and we're going to see a lot of these cheap cards, not investment advice, go off the market. But that's the whole point, right? But from a land guy standpoint, I'm buying up cards now. I'm not a huge buyer, you know, by any means, but I have picked up some, like in this last week, I picked up 4 more max gold foil commons, right? Also, if anybody's wondering, my card of the week, my alpha card, actually alpha 2 cards of the week, because I found 2 good deals. I bought a Defender of Truth and a Dark Enchantress just for a little icing on the cake. I found that both of these cards were a very good deal. They had almost decreased by 50%. Not saying, you know, from an overall standpoint, oh, we don't want cards. From a buyer standpoint, that's good. When you're looking for deals, that's good. Wish I had more time to talk about alpha. I'm thinking about doing a whole series on alpha of these cards that you just never see in play that are cool, you know, so. Yeah, I picked them both up. They were about this one was like $6 US, and this was like $6.50 US. But both of them were down from like, I don't want to say 50%. They were down from like $9, right? So I saw them both good deals, so I picked them up both. I would like to do a series on these cards because there's a lot of them you just don't see in play, and some of them I'd never seen before, right? So. Okay, let's finish it off. Gathering says, I still think there will be terrain types that can't farm grain, just like some can't harvest wood. Yeah, I agree with that. I think the buildings would go with the land. Any updates, changes, I would hope so. But that would require a more complicated selling interface. In other words, they're going to have to add more to the selling UI to be able to account for the buildings, what level the buildings are, etc. And that would also have to be done on peak monsters. I do agree it makes sense that, and we've talked about this before, if you sell plot, I've got a level 5 sawmill on there. It's taken a long time to build that up to level 5 or whatever, you know. It doesn't make sense to strip that off. But it does make sense to have a UI for sale that says, hey, this is a forest. It's got a level 5 sawmill on it, and whatever else goes along with that. And here's the price. But it complicates the selling UI, right? So. Come on, guys, dump that region, 43 and 51 land. I heard they have locusts and a drought is coming. Okay, so Paul says, combining the epics would make it harder to sell later. Keep that in mind. That is true. That is true from a selling point of view. It's from a playing point of view and from a staking point of view, it's going to be better to combine. But always from a selling point of view, the 1BCX always gets you your highest value or price. Price and value, 2 different things. Alpha this week, yeah, these are the 2 alphas. Level 2 Dark Enchantress. No, this is only a level. It is a level 2. I bought a level 2 and I thought I bought a level 1. Either way, let's see, got a good deal if that's level 2. Yeah. yeah, I bought these both, and it cost me, I don't know. I don't know what it cost me. Maybe I paid for it. Maybe I clicked the wrong one. Either way, it goes into my alpha collection, and I'm getting towards, I know I'm running a few minutes over, but I like this topic. I'm getting towards the end of the alpha epics. An interesting thing for you card collectors out there is that I'm getting towards the end. What's the one I want to point out? Okay, the Fire Demon is interesting. Let's look at it on Peak Monsters. Sort by price, ascending. Okay, this is what I wanted to point out, because these last two epics are kind of weird. Okay, so Serpent of Flame, not so much, although it is getting a little bit pricier. It's like 20 bucks for one BCX, but this Fire Demon, 10 bucks. See, whenever I had looked at it, like one BCX was like $150. Maybe not so bad. But then after I get those last two, we get into legendaries, and then it gets incredibly a lot more expensive. So I don't know how many of these I'm going to be able to do. Look, like the cheapest legendary alpha, one BCX, $47. So I don't know how far I'm going to be able to venture if I do get into the legendaries. They are super cool to talk about from a collector's point of view, and those people that get into card games and like to look at, you know, the alpha versions. Thanks for the stream. Have a great and safe Thanksgiving. And I think Gathering will have the last word on this week's stream. I appreciate everybody stopping by. I would also appreciate a like and subscribe. Tell everybody, tell your card playing friends about this channel if you think they would be interested. I hope everyone on your side is happy and healthy, and wherever you are in the world, take this next week and look at what you're thankful for. Be thankful for what you have. And I will see you on the flip side.